Well, that's the power of the internet. This video is a follow-on from the last video that I did about solar panels, where I said that most solar panels will not keep a battery fully charged over the winter. So the comments were coming in thick and fast, and they were a mixed bag actually. The first few comments were saying, no, actually my solar panel works fine and I've got a 100-watt solar panel and it keeps my battery topped up. And then I had a few people saying, yep, you're dead right, I've had a 150-watt solar panel and it's killed 2 batteries and it doesn't work at all. So I was kind of thinking, well, it can't be both. So there must be something else going on. And then it kind of got me thinking, well, actually, we don't know all the ins and outs of all the individual circumstances. Now, I've certainly seen a good number of people come in the spring when their battery is packed up and they've had it on solar all winter, thinking that it's going to keep it up and running. Now, I see that a lot. But obviously I don't see everyone that hasn't had an issue, because they don't have an issue, so they don't come to see me. And so my view on it may be a little bit skewed towards the negative side of things, where the solars don't work. And I've certainly had it where a customer bought a new battery and then the year after had exactly the same problem. This is where I'm seeing the issue recurring. So that's where I'm getting my point of view of being that the solar panels don't generally keep the batteries topped up. But obviously, looking at the comments, that isn't the case for everyone. And I think on the video that I did, which I'll link to in the end, so you can watch that, I did indicate that it doesn't happen all the time, because I certainly have seen it, you know, where people have used solar panels all year and in the winter and it's been fine. So that got me thinking, right, what else could be going on? Well, of course, the battery could be duff anyway, so it might have just lasted the season and then got to the point where when you want it to be charged up fully by the solar, it just can't take it. I've always thought that the solar will keep a decent battery topped up, but it will not pick up a low battery or one that's slightly damaged or not overly efficient. Now, I have also got a new piece of kit for testing batteries, a digital one, which has kind of told us a lot. I'll do a video on that as well a bit at a later date, as to how to check batteries using that. And that has thrown up quite a few anomalies. It looks like a battery can be fully charged, but of course it's been through several cycles. It might be 2 or 3 or 4 years old, had a hard life, and so when you look at the percentage of it actually being left usable percentage left, it's not very good. But the voltage is okay, and if you put it on your Caravan, it would run your leisure run your lights, it'd run your pump, it'd run everything, so it looks okay. But when you then ask it to run a mover, that's when it packs up. So I think that's where the kind of the difference between a decent battery and a decent battery is it looks okay on the surface, but actually when you ask it to do something, it doesn't like it. And that could be what's happened with customers that have come in with a battery that's failed over the winter, because the solar hasn't kept it up, because it's asking the solar to do too much. So the first thing could be the state of the battery going into the winter. It needs to be charged up and fully maintained and in good condition before the solar can actually do the job. So that might be issue number one. Issue number two could be that the solar doesn't work very well. I've certainly seen it where the regulators pack up and we've had to replace the regulators. And I've done a video on over voltage as well, so I'll link to that at the end, which is something that you probably need to know about. When the regulators actually pack up and they allow the full voltage of the solar panel, which can be up to 20 volts, come into the system doesn't like it and shuts down. So check out that video if that's the situation you're in. But it also could cut off completely or be not very efficient. So I've done I've kind of tested a few to see what the voltage is pre-regulator and post-regulator, and this is what I found out. With the microwave removed, we can clearly see the wires coming down from the solar panel. That's the one that goes to there, and then this one is the one that goes off to the battery. So it's quite a good idea to test these just to see what's going on every now and again. And to do that, disconnect the wire coming from the solar panel. So unclick those and pull it out. And then if you get a multimeter and then put them in there like that and in there like that, it gives you the voltage that's coming out of the solar panel. So it's 19.9. It can go up to 21 depending on whether the sun's shining and what's going on outside. It's also a good idea to clean the solar panels fairly regularly because they don't like being covered in green stuff, and you'll get more efficiency out of them then. So that's the voltage coming out of the solar panel and then going off into the regulator. You've got 20 volts there, and obviously you don't want 20 volts going into the system. So if you put that back in like that and then disconnect the other one, that is then coming through the regulator and then out to the other side, and then you've got plus and minus there. Okay, and you've got 14.8 volts, something like that. Okay, which is okay for the charging system. Okay, but if that does fail and it creeps up to 16, 17 volts, then that's when the system won't like it. So 14.8, 14.9, that's fine. Reconnect that like that, and then that will go down to the battery and keep your battery nice and topped up. So you could do that test before you start using the solar in the winter, just to make sure that the battery is going to last. So you've got a decent battery, you know your solar panel's working. The other thing that I think could have an effect on how good the solar panel is the position of the caravan. Now we face north here, and south we've got a builder centre and a load of trees, and it's fairly high up. So for about 3 months of the year, we don't actually see the sun at all. And I know that because when it snows, on a very rare occasion it does snow in Cornwall, or when we get a frost, it can last for days. When across the valley, it's gone within, by 11 o'clock. So I know that we don't actually see a decent amount of sun. And when I've been doing a bit of research on this to work out how the solar panel works, it's certainly direct sunlight is the key to a solar panel working. So it could be the position that the caravan's in. If it's tucked behind a building or under trees, or anywhere that the sun can't get to it, then that could have a detrimental effect on how good the solar panel is. I also think that as the earth tilts away, when the sun kind of glances off the atmosphere, we don't get a decent amount of power in that light as well, in the sun. And you can tell that as soon as it gets to March or April and the sun's kind of moved around a little bit and you get more direct sun on us and the temperature warms up, you can really feel the difference. So if you go into kind of December, it's kind of just glancing off the atmosphere and it's kind of, not really penetrating down into the solar panels, then I think that can have an effect as well. So the position the caravan is in could also have an effect on whether the solar panel works or not. So those three things combined, so your battery might not be much cop, the regulator might be playing up, and the position of the battery might indicate why we're seeing some people have issues and then some people not, because all those things are, are good. So you've got a good battery, the regulator's working, and it's, is in a good amount of sunlight. So that is that's what my thoughts were. It'd be interesting to see what you think. And again, that's why I love the internet, because you get some feedback and you go, actually, I'll start thinking about that. I just assumed that it was the solar panels weren't strong enough to actually do the job, but sounds like there's a lot more to it than that. And it'll be interesting to see what you think. So put the comments in below and we'll see where this takes us, and like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff, and also check out my ideal caravan, and keep an eye out for the next videos where I'll be talking about the over voltage on the system, because that could get you out of trouble. I've had a few phone calls on the back of that with the decent weather we had in the last few days, and it just got me thinking that I hadn't done that video, so that one's coming up as well. So I'll see you next time.